In today's Midweek Mini, I'm telling you a case of a former FBI agent who was arrested for sexual abuse of an 11-year-old. We're talking about the case of Christopher Bauer. Welcome lambs, welcome old lambs, welcome new lambs to Love and Murder, the Wednesday edition. If you're new here, hi, my name is Kai, and don't forget to subscribe. Well, usually listen to the episode if you like it. Go ahead and subscribe so you do not miss a case when it comes out. Before we begin, as usual, I want to remind you that this episode and all my episodes are sponsored by my lambs in Patreon. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. If you want to be a supporter of Love and Murder, then one of those ways you can do that is through our Patreon. Patreon.com/Love and Murder. Now let's get into this Midweek Mini. On August 1st, 2023, in Montgomery, Alabama, former FBI agent Christopher Bauer was sentenced to life in prison for the sexual abuse of an 11-year-old girl. 44-year-old Christopher Bauer's conviction followed a week-long trial where a jury found him guilty of first-degree sodomy and sexual abuse of a child under 12. The victim, who is now a teenager, testified about the repeated abuse she endured over several years with Christopher. Jurors also watched a recorded interview from 2021 where the child spoke to a child abuse investigator and detailed the horrors that she faced at the hands of Christopher. In her testimony, she said that the abuse went on for years because she was just too afraid to tell him no and too afraid to tell anyone what was happening. Mamas, it's not your fault, babies. You were only 11, and even if you grew into a teenager and this was still happening to you, no one is saying that you're a coward. No one is blaming you. It is not your fault. I understand, babies, that you were scared. Of course. He was a figure of authority. He was probably, I'm not saying he was saying this, but he might have told you, if you don't do this, I'm going to arrest your family or whatever. I don't know. But even if he didn't say that, he's a figure of authority. So it's not your fault, babies. That's so sad to hear. She's sitting there. She was so scared. She's like, I should have said something earlier. And she's so scared. Oh, can you imagine? I can't. Oh. The trial was a culmination of a lengthy investigation that started when the girl had finally confided in a friend. That friend told her parents because she is MVP. Dude, if I knew your name, friend, I would give you a crisp high five. I would shout your name on my platform so everybody knows. This is the kind of friend you need in your life. I hope you and her are still friends. Because this is the kind of friend everybody needs in their life. Shout out to you, little friend. Good job. So anyway, the friend told her parents, and then her parents, being MVPs themselves, then spoke to school authorities. These are the kind of people everybody needs in their life. During the trial, Christopher's defense lawyer claimed that the little girl, oh my God, I didn't even finish that sentence. I'm so sorry. Christopher's defense lawyers claimed that the little girl made up the allegations. She just made everything up. She was on the playground one day and she said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make up a story that an FBI agent, well, I'll say former, because I know the FBI don't want, any affiliation with him. So I'm going to say, I'm going to make up a story that a former FBI agent sexually assaulted me. By the way, what is sexual assault? Because I'm only 11. Fuck. His lawyers continued arguing that Christopher deserves leniency because of his own abusive childhood in foster homes and orphanages. His attorneys told the court that Christopher was removed from his house and his parents when he was 5, and then he was diagnosed with oppositional defiant disorder. So the little girl who was 11 lied. Well, I guess it started at 11. She was a teenager by the time this came forward. She lied. She made up all of this thing. She just pointed to him out of a sea of people, pointed to him, decided to lie. He deserves leniency because he was abused when he was a child. And, let's go with that, Your Honor. Does this not working for you? I can come up with something else. Quote, several instances stick out to Mr. Bauer, including once when he was pushed out of the third floor of a building and another when he was left in a burning apartment. I mean, yeah, was your childhood horrible? Yes, that's freaking terrible. That does not give you permission to grow up and do whatever you want. Then Christopher took the stand in his own defense and denied everything. He pled what, lambs? Not guilty. He said, quote, if she said I did something to her, then yes, that's a lie. He also told the jury that they don't always get it right. You know, y'all, the ones that are judging me, y'all don't always get it right. I mean, I do agree with him. They don't always get it right, but the cajones to tell them while you're on trial, just wow. However, the jury said, yeah, well, we got it right this time. Well, they didn't actually say that, but in my head, we got it right this time. And Christopher was found guilty on all counts. During his sentencing, Christopher maintained his innocence, saying, quote, it seems no matter what I say, no one wants to believe I'm innocent. All it took was an accusation to strip me of everything. And I know y'all are like, oh, Kai, suppose he's telling the truth. You're just such an asshole sometimes. Can you just give him the benefit of a doubt? Let me continue on with the case before y'all judge me, okay? When I get to the end of the case, then let's talk. Let's talk face to face, or well, computer keys to computer keys, all right? So he's saying he's innocent. He said all that. Judge Jimmy Poole was like, whatever, I quote, believed every single word that the victim said. And then he said, on top of me believing her and not you, I'm going to give you life in prison. Yeah, I think that's what you deserve. The prosecution, supported by the victim's mother, argued for the maximum sentence, with District Attorney Darrell D. Bailey calling Christopher a, quote, sexual predator who needed to be, quote, removed from our streets forever. The victim's mother said, quote, he had everyone fooled. Basically, she was saying that how Christopher used his badge to project an image of respectability while he was committing these crimes. Now, this is the part that I was telling y'all to wait for, okay? What makes his case shocking is how he managed to secure a position as an Alabama state trooper even though he had a past with the FBI. Let me rephrase that. Even though he had a checkered past with the FBI. Now, this part I mainly got from the Associated Press, so let's get into what they said. The Associated Press requested an explanation from Alabama authorities on how Christopher was able to secure a job with them despite his past, but they refused to respond. So, Associated Press did an investigation, and they saw that Christopher had been dismissed from the FBI after, what do you think? Somebody else lying on him, right? That's what he's saying in his head. Somebody else lying on him. He was dismissed from the FBI after being accused of raping a coworker at knife point. His record also stated that he'd been suspended without pay and stripped of his security clearance due to a string of sexual misconduct allegations while working in the New Orleans FBI office. So this is why I'm more apt to believe that this little girl, well, I already believe that the little girl, because there's some cases that children do lie. There are some, but for the most part, when it comes to this, no. So I do give the benefit of the doubt because you are innocent until proven guilty, even if it's a child, even if it's a woman, even if it's a man who says, hey, this person, blah, blah, blah. If there's no witnesses, it is he say, she say. However, look at this dude's past. So with his past, do you think this little girl was reading the newspaper to try and find her next mark? Well, he has a questionable past with the FBI. This is who I'm going to lie on. He sexually assaulted me since I was 11, Judge. Like, she's, with his past, how is she lying? And how would she know that your past is this for her to start lying on you? So based on his past with the FBI in New Orleans, that's why I was like that in the beginning of this episode. Many of the allegations in Louisiana court filings had been public for a year when Christopher was hired in Alabama. The woman who'd accused him of rape had sent in an application for a restraining order. And in that application, she said that Christopher had choked her and made her, quote, scared for her life. That's a grown woman saying that. Now, this little girl said she was scared for her life. That's two people saying the same exact things with the same exact allegations, meaning it's, sexual assault, sexual misconduct. So if this grown woman was scared for her life, how do you think that little girl felt? The woman said that Christopher sexually assaulted her so frequently, lambs, that her hair had started falling out. Quote, it was a year of torture. He quite literally would keep me awake for days. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep. And in 6 months, I went from 150 pounds to 92 pounds. I was physically dying from what he was doing to me. This is what she said. What do you think Christopher said? Christopher claimed he was innocent and told his colleagues that it was all consensual. She's just starving herself to go from 150 pounds to 92 pounds. And I don't know why her hair's falling out. He didn't say that. This is just me being sarcastic. But he did say he was innocent, and he did tell his colleagues that it was consensual. So instead of facing the consequences for his actions, Christopher forged a letter that falsely indicated that he was, quote, eligible for rehire. I mean, he did face the consequences of his actions in the sense that the FBI let him go, but he decided he was going to go get another job in law enforcement. And to do that, he forged a letter saying that he was eligible for rehire. So this forgery allowed him to get a job with the Alabama State Police in 2019. Notice he left the state of Louisiana and went to another state because he knows how this works. However, that's what started an FBI investigation into him, was that forgery. But no charges were immediately brought forward as the investigation continued, which I understand. You're investigating. I don't blame the FBI because I don't think they thought he would go this far. They're investigating and seeing, trying to bring charges against this guy. Everything is still an investigation. So at the same time, I don't blame the FBI. The FBI later confirmed that the letter was, quote, not legitimate. So, like I said, he's currently in prison for life. But on top of that, Louisiana said, oh, we still need him over here. So yeah, you finished with him, Alabama. Send him over here. When the ink dries on the paperwork, send him over here, because he now faces additional charges on child sex abuse in Louisiana. And they definitely intend to extradite him after all of this stuff is done in Alabama. In the meantime, the Alabama Law Enforcement Agency has refused to release records from its internal investigation into Christopher's hiring, and a spokeswoman said, quote, there were no disciplinary actions taken as a result of the review, end quote. That's literally all we got. In response to the revelations about Christopher's past, the FBI and other federal law enforcement agencies have faced increased scrutiny over their handling of sexual misconduct allegations. Christopher's case is just one example within the FBI where concerns have been raised about how supervisors and agents are disciplined or not disciplined for sexual misconduct. But I do know that in other agencies, this happens as well. This happens in the military. This happens in colleges because they don't want to call attention to their college. They don't want negative attention to their college. So they handle sexual misconduct, sexual abuse of either male or female. They completely mishandle it because they do not want, I'm speaking for colleges, they do not want that negative light shown on the college. So I know they mishandle. I'm not saying every single college, but I know some colleges mishandle sexual misconduct allegations. So right now the FBI is under scrutiny. And like I said, I definitely know it happens. I'm not saying in every single area of the military, but I know it happens in the military. Anyway, that is the case of Christopher Bauer, who is in prison in Alabama for life, but I guess he's getting additional charges put on him in Louisiana too. So he's going to be in there till he dies, and then his corpse is going to sit there and be there for 100 more years. I don't know. I don't know how they're going to do that, but literally he's never getting out. But everything and everybody, people who never met each other, they all lied on him. What do y'all think about that case? What I want y'all to tell me is, have you or anybody you know ever experienced a situation where your sexual assault or sexual misconduct allegations were not taken seriously? Let me know that story. Tell me in the comments below, or you could actually send me a voicemail to my email. You can record something and send that to my email at noconductradio@gmail.com. And I'll do an extra episode where I tell your stories, or I play your voice recordings on air. Or if you want to remain anonymous, I'll just read out your story. So let me know that. Like I said, you could record on your phone and send that voice recording to my email, noconductradio@gmail.com. Or just let me know your story in the comments below. Or you could even just send me an email that's not a voice recording. You can literally just email me. I want to hear from you. The reason I want to do an episode like that, if it's happened to you or somebody you know, because this is something that we definitely need to call attention to, and it's something that needs to stop. It's definitely something that needs to stop. So once again, the question is, have you or do you know anybody where their sexual misconduct or sexual assault allegations were not taken seriously? I want to know what happened. How was it dealt with? And yeah, that's what I want to know. And let's get into some of your comments from our past midweek mini episodes. So in the midweek episode of Lauren Johansson, the murder of Lauren Johansson, I asked if you agreed with Dr. Johansson that Bryson should get the death penalty. Also, if you are part of the Love and Murder Beyond the podcast community on Facebook, I did also put a video of Davidson County clerk admitting to their mistake with Bryson Rivers. So I put that video out there. And if you wanted more videos of this case, talking about this case, I had even more videos in our Patreon, patreon.com/love and murder. So like I said, the question was, do you agree with Dr. Johansson that Bryson should get the death penalty? And Christina Bobo said, I disagree with the death penalty because it's too easy. He should be beaten within an inch of his life every day. I wish the dad could get street justice. I seriously cried listening to this. As parents, we want to protect our babies, and he probably feels like a failure. I pray anyone in a DV situation gets out before it's too late. Nobody who loves you will hurt you like this. Holes in her face and enough fractures to separate her face from her body. She was obliterated. The judge should be removed from the bench, and honestly, she should be in jail too, along with every other, quote, official that dropped the ball. And to that, I said that I agree with the death penalty because that's what the father wants. So who am I to say different? This is his child. This is what he wanted. And so I have to agree with him. I also agree that this episode was hard. Again, as y'all know, and I've talked to y'all about extensively, I can't let it sink in or this podcast wouldn't continue because I would be so depressed with everything that I research, and y'all listen to it once. I go through this multiple times for one episode because I have to do the research. I gotta then record it. I gotta then edit it. That's already 3 times I've gone through this, so yeah, I can't let it soak in. I try and keep it surface level. I feel the pain, and I try and sometimes it does get the better of me on air. Sometimes it gets the better of me off air, but it's like I cannot. And then as a mother myself, I imagine what these parents are going through. I can't imagine. And even thinking about the wounds that were inflicted on this woman, what she went through. Can you even imagine holes have you ever heard of a face being beaten off of a body, of a skull? So you can't even imagine. Anyways, all right. So Christina Bobo responded that it's unimaginable, and I honestly can't understand that level of anger to inflict on anyone, never mind someone you love. I wonder about his upbringing and what type of child he was. He had to show signs that he was a danger to society, because escalating to this level of evil, I'd be so ashamed if he were my child. And you're right. If dad says death penalty, then death penalty it is. But he should be tortured first and stoned. Thank you for your comment, Christina Bobo. If you haven't caught that episode, I do have the link in the show notes below. So go ahead and check out that episode. It's a doozy. I gotta let you know, it is a doozy. Black Ivory also commented and she said, if my best friend or relatives are in domestic violence situation, I am telling them to leave and I will help them leave. I will not tell them to stay on a sinking ship. I'm no therapist. I'm a realist and my advice is take your life and go. I'm the case of or for the sake of any children. Go. I agree with you, Black Ivory. Don't get me wrong. I completely agree with you, but I'm just telling you what someone who was in that situation said to say. I haven't been in that situation, so I can only go by what someone in that situation has said to say. And they said it's not easy just leaving, so you don't always just tell the person just go. But if you tell the person to talk to somebody, get help, like stuff like that, talk, at least that's a first step into the going part. So this was advice coming from somebody who's been through this. So that's why I said that, Black Ivory. But still, thank you for your comment. And in the poll question that I had out, which was the same question, 75% of y'all said that he should get the death penalty and 25% of you said no, maybe life in prison. And then the other option I had there was he needs help, neither life in prison or death penalty, but he needs mental help. Nobody chose that. Most of y'all chose death penalty. All right. In another midweek mini, oh man, this one, yeah. So this was the case of Janet Garcia, where a mother murdered her son because she was in a custody battle with her mom. And this one had a doozy of an update of the John Eisenman case. So if you haven't heard this one, you definitely got to listen to this one. So it was like a twofer. So if you don't remember the John Eisenman case, remember that case I did of a father said he rescued his daughter from a sex trafficking ring, and then after he got her back, he went and murdered her boyfriend, who was the one who put her in the sex trafficking ring? Yeah, that case. So there was a mind-blowing update to that case. Also, if you haven't heard this one, I do have the link for this one in the show notes below, so you can easily go back and listen to that. So the main case was on Janet Garcia. So I did ask my lambs, what did y'all think about this case and the updates? And Christina Bobo said, I feel extremely sad because this is a case where the grandmother tried to intervene before it was too late, but was unsuccessful. I doubt that she'll ever stop blaming herself. As far as the update, of all the people she could confide in, why did she choose HR? I agree that if I were the HR person, 911 would have been on the way before she left the building. If someone confessed a murder and didn't even seem remorseful or were low-key bragging, I'd consider it to be a threat against my life. It's clear that if they have that much disregard for another's life, then nobody matters to them and everyone is a potential victim. Which, if you listen to that episode, I agreed because I was like, why did it take, look, I'm not judging her because I don't know her. I'm just saying from my point of view, if it was me, why would it take you that long to call 911? Because look, as I said in the episode, once your last heel was crossing the threshold, I would have been dialing the last one in 911. But go back and listen to that case. And if you haven't listened to the previous case, you can also go back and listen to the case of John Eisenman to see how that progressed. So those are just some of your comments I wanted to read out. Go ahead and don't forget to leave your comments on this show in the show notes below. Send me an email. You could record your message as well. And that is all I have for you. Also, don't forget that a free and easy way to help Lamb out is by simply sharing this episode. So our new thing is sharing it to everybody we know and everybody we don't. So this case had a really good friend in it. So go ahead and share this case with your best friend and let them know how much you would have their back if they ever needed it. Let them listen to this case. Let me know what they have to say. And so that's somebody you know, and let's share it with everybody we don't. So go ahead and share this. If you still have Twitter, share it in your Twitter. If you have Threads, I guess, share it in your Threads. So that's sharing it with everybody you know and everybody you don't. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a lamb. And I will see you in the next episode. Bye.